Mm.
I'm just checking kama.
Guys,
Hello? Anybody get
Not know that Arumanyanet.
me? Hello? Anybody getting me?
Yes, James.
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much. I welcome each and every one of us on board so that we can contemplate on this day of suicide. And I'll kindly request if you can share the poster, please. Okay, as we await for the poster, my name is James Odhiambo, and I'm a peer educator at TINADA Youth Organization. I work for Sustainable Rural Initiatives also as a projects coordinator. So today I'll be your host or moderator for this session. Kindly let us feel free to engage extensively on this issue so that we can get way forward and have a very productive meeting. In no order, kindly I'll request us in 5 minutes. Can we have a round of maybe introduction for those who are in? Just say your name and the organization.
Good morning. I'm Tom Ogalo from Jijeng Youth Organization.
Good morning. I'm Heli Darua from Kemri CDC.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Joseph Ajoke. I work for Organization of African Youth. And kindly, when you're not speaking, kindly mute. I'll mute you on my side. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Grace Akumu, Project Officer at Chanua Dada CBO. Thank you.
Next, please. Yes, Patrick, go ahead. Patrick, you've raised your hand.
Hello.
Yes, we can get you.
Okay, thank you. I'm Patrick Ojao from Homa Bay Kahed. I'm ready to listen for the discussion for today.
Thank you.
Welcome.
1 minute to go.
Sorry?
Hi, I'm Lauren Dida.
Okay, so I believe I gave an opportunity for us to introduce. For those who never got an opportunity, maybe as you will be speaking along the way, you can introduce yourself when the time comes. So I kindly welcome to today's session on World Suicide Prevention Day, and some of the interventions that we have in this Zoom today is one, to understand issues around suicide prevention, and then we have issues around mental health. So we are going to have 3 panelists for this session. One, we have Madam Mary Gitau from Madam Mary Gitau is from Center for Suicide Research and Intervention, and she's a master's holder in Suicidology or Suicidology. Hey, that word. That word is a bit complex. Yeah, so Madam Mary, there is a lot of echo from your end.
Call everybody to order to unmute. Kindly.
Yeah, kindly, for those who are not speaking, kindly mute. Yeah, so I was introducing the speakers, and Madam Mary is an expert in suicide issues. And then we have Mr. John Mwangi from PDO Kenya. He is also versed with the issues around stigma and suicide prevention. So he'll be speaking to us more about the same. Then the last one in the panelist, we have Madam Whitney Ndemo, who is a mental health expert and psychosocial support person. So we are going to get engaged in this way. First, I'll admit Madam Mary. Madam Mary Gitau will start us off because she has other engagement.
Hello, good morning. Hello, James.
Yes, I can get you.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Maybe you. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you so much for having me this morning. I am delighted to be part of this. And I look forward to, to interacting more with us and getting to learn so much and seeing what we can be able to do together to prevent suicide in Kenya. I don't know, is it possible for me to share my slides?
Yes, it is possible. I think the sharing has been enabled.
Okay, awesome.
Excuse, while Mary is sharing her slide, there is a link on the chat box. Kindly register, a Google link. Kindly register.
Thank you. So my conversation today will be on causes of suicide among young people. And why young people? I believe most of us who are gathered here are young people. And I also believe that it has to start with us. There's so much because we have so much resources within ourselves. There's so much that we can be able to do to actually attain that goal of having zero suicide. So that's why I am delighted to actually share this topic on causes of suicide among young people, so that even as we engage, what can we be able to do us as young people, what causes us to get to that space of, of being in a suicidal crisis, be it suicide thoughts, be it, attempting suicide, and just finding out what really happens to us. So what I'm going to start with is kind of defining what suicide is. So suicide is an attempt to communicate or solve a problem. It is a very extreme psychic condition, or what we call psychological pain that is very painful, as defined by the founders of Suicidologists, Edwin. And what he said is, when somebody gets to that pain, that psychological pain, then the only way out they see is suicide. And people do not want to die by suicide. However, they get to a place where they're thinking, how can I be able to solve a problem or something that I have to deal with? And so because of that, others see the only option to be suicide. You get to a place where the only tunnel you have, you are walking down this tunnel, you're walking down this road, and it gets narrower and narrower because of the pain that you're feeling, because of a problem that has been caused. And you're wondering, how else can I solve this? So it's an attempt to be able to communicate something. So I will share about commonalities of suicide. So the commonalities of suicide, what are these? What, be it medical, be it even if it's caused by a mental illness or something, what are the commonalities of suicide? And the first one that I'll talk about is needs are frustrated. When you get to that state of being suicidal, there's something that you're actually looking forward to, but it hasn't been met. So those needs become frustrated. And the only way you are seeing out of this is suicide. So needs are frustrated. The emotion is hopeless and helpless. You have emotions that become very hopeless, and you get to a place of even feeling hopeless, helpless, kabisa. There's nowhere to seek help. There's nobody who is coming through for you. That's a commonality of suicide. Psychological pain is the stimulus. So the pain that you're experiencing, the psychological pain that is within you, is a stimulus. That is what is pushing you to that state of being suicidal. The purpose, or the constriction is the cognitive state. The cognitive state that you're in. What are you thinking? How is it? So it is, the constriction is the cognitive state. That's your thought process. The purpose is to seek a solution. That's the way. That is what is leading you to be in a suicidal crisis. The purpose is to seek a solution. We ask a question, is it possible for us to be able to identify somebody who is in a suicidal crisis? Yes, because in so many cases, intention is always communicated interpersonally beforehand. In so many ways, other ways that are actually very clear and other ways that are not so clear. But somehow intention is always communicated interpersonally. And what is the desire? The desire is to get out. Getting out, escaping. You just want to escape from this pain. You want to escape from a situation that you're in. Oblivion is the goal. Cessation of conscious. The psychological pain is too much. Your needs have been frustrated. So you want to stop the consciousness. You want to stop that part of knowing what you're struggling with. And so we say oblivion is the goal. Cessation of consciousness. You want to stop thinking about it. And and that particular time, the only thing you're thinking is escaping or running away from it. The underlying attitude is ambivalence. Most people that die by suicide, they actually do not want to die. If a solution can be found before they get to that place of attempting or even doing the act, they will not die by suicide. Most people, please note I'm using the word most people. So most people want to escape. You're communicating, there's so much pain, your needs are frustrated, and you're thinking, how can I get help? I have tried to seek help. I am lonely in this space. I am hopeless in this space. I am feeling helpless. So how can I be able to get out? So in getting out, you end up dying by suicide. Of course, consistency is with lifelong coping skills, your coping skills as an individual, and even us as young people. We get to a place where the coping skills that we've been having or what we've been taught no longer makes sense. So what gets us to this space? So the question, we all have been talking about suicide for so many years. So much has been invested in research, especially in the Western countries, but yet we still continue to find so many increasing numbers of suicide. Clearly, what does this indicate? Again, another founder of Suicidology, Dakenheim, said it has to do with our system, our society. Where are we? What is happening within us? It is not a personal situation, suicide, but a manifestation of a social condition. There's so much that is happening even in our country at this present age. Politically, we're not doing well. We are torn between choosing, is it BBI, is it UDA, is it Jubilee? So politically, we are doing so badly. Economically, we know that so many of us have lost jobs. Most of us have been laid off. Most of us cannot be able to even cater for our basic needs. We have been thrown out of our houses because we can't pay rent. We cannot even be able to feed our children, for those of us who have children. We can't even be able to take care of our significant others. So there is so much that is happening around us. So clearly, it is an indication that our social system, our society is doing badly. Suicidal currents are as a collective tendencies that dominate more vulnerable persons. The act of suicide is nothing but a manifestation of these currents. Again, it's repeated there with more words, that the tendencies, where we are, the situation we find ourselves in. This is why we are still having suicide cases rising and rising. The pandemic has not made it better. It's made it worse. We don't have connection. We no longer do gatherings. Like for us young people who are here, I believe we are probably, most of us here are probably below 60 years, or 50 years. We love fun. We love going out. We are human beings. We are social beings. We want to connect with others. We want to go out. That's no longer happening. And you find yourself in that space of being lonely, in that space of being alone, and your life kind of feels like it stopped. It's a reflection of one's life. Where are we as individuals? How have you been brought up as a person? How was it growing up? How was school? Did you experience trauma? Did you experience any bullying when you were going through high school or primary or growing up in your neighborhood? What were your parents telling you about yourself? When you sit back and reflect on how life is, this is a trigger to suicide. And that's why the cases of suicide keep going high and high. So what are the causes of suicide? Looking at that, what I've just shared in the previous slides. Key decisions. As young people or young people growing up, young people, youths, teenagers, young adults, we are at a space of concrete decisions in life. We are making decisions about school. Do I want to go on from diploma to bachelor's to doing my master's? Which university or college will I have to take? Who are going to be my peers? Am I capable of paying school fees? Are my parents capable of raising the school fees that I need? So there's so much that is happening in your life. There are times you get to a place and think it actually doesn't make sense anymore. The living situation, maybe this is how you've grown up. Maybe you've grown up in a place and you have always wanted, when I grow up, I would probably want to be in this place. But the current space has not made it possible for me. So the living situation is not making it any better. The peer group, who are your peer group? Who are your peers? Who are you relating with? What's happening with you? What conversations do you have? What opportunities do they present in your life? This can be a cause for suicide, concrete directions in life. It is that moment that we actually need to sit down and say, hey, I think it is time that I actually settle down in this relationship. You know, it's that time that breaking up, making up happens. It is a time to address new challenges, building our own identity, developing self-esteem, acquiring increasingly independence and responsibility, and building new intimate relationship, among others. So we are, as young people, we are in a space where we have to address new challenges. And some of these challenges are not interesting. Even as you try to build your own identity, where are you coming from? What have you been taught as a child, as a teen? What were you taught? What's your background like? You know, how was it? How do you define identity? Your self-esteem. Was your self-esteem broken growing up as a child? Was it interfered with? And now at this space, you actually have to become a person with, you know, with a stable self-esteem. You know, you have to acquire increasing independence. It's time to move out of your mom's house. It's time that mom stop cooking for you. And it gets like, can I really even manage? You know, can I cook for myself? I have to move out from my mom's big house to a small house to start life. How is this? As we call it, adulting, are we ready to be adults? Building new intimate relationship. Subjected to ongoing, one, changing or changes psychologically. How is it? How are you developing psychologically? What are some of the changes that you're experiencing, even emotionally? What are some of these changes? You've grown up probably in a very dysfunctional family, and now you get to a place and you're like, I actually thought that this is life. Kumbe, this is not life. There's a better life out there. And probably you can't go. Physical processes as young adults. There's so much that is happening in our bodies. You know, you're changing, you're either becoming plump, or you're reducing, or you have to keep watch of your weight. You have to be sure that you do lots of exercises, you eat properly, and you do all those things. So there's so much that is happening that actually pushes us to get to those places of hopelessness and feeling helpless and feeling like I can't make it in life. So these are some of those causes of suicide. Life transitions, movement, changes, transitions. You know, you have to move. Probably if you're doing your bachelor's, you are in Moi University, and now you have to move to Nairobi, or you are in Nairobi, you have to move to KU. You know, you probably moved from Kisumu or Mombasa, and you have to go to Turkana to attend campus, or to, you know. So those movements, your parents at this time as a young person or as a young adult, your parents are now starting to settle down. Maybe they were staying in Nairobi and now they have to relocate back home. You know, so those movements and changes, they can actually affect you as a young person. High expectations, and sometimes too high. And from who? Our significant others, our relatives, our peers. They're those expectations that our parents have placed upon us. You know, you're expected to perform well in your high school. Now, ukimaliza hivi shule, there's a course you're supposed to do. And so you have to keep saying, Mom, Dad, I think my heart is here, not here. And then he's saying, no, that course doesn't work, this one works. So, you know, those expectations, oh, why did you fail in this topic? Why did you fail in this course? So there's just so much that is happening that can actually cause us or lead us to suicide, leading to a certain degree of helplessness, insecurity, stress, a sense of losing control. As young people, you know, as a child, you're getting to a place where you want now to take control of your life. But here, there's still these high expectations and life transitions that at times make you lose control of who you are, of the circumstances. Because if there's no job, what can you do? It's beyond you, you know? If your parents are moving from the city to the rural to settle, what can you do? So you see in this space, then you start losing control. So some of these things can actually drive us to, you know, to thinking about suicide. So factors in mood, suicide, and depression. genetics, life experiences, the brain, emotional regulation. How did you grow up? How easily do you get upset? And how intensely do you get upset? And for how long do you get upset? What's your capacity for joy and humor and happiness and to have fun? Some of those, how do you regulate your emotions? Do we get to a place where you are able to even track our thoughts, our emotions, our behaviors, and probably think of alternative ways to handle things as they come along? Anxieties. How easily do you get worried? How fearful are you? Or how easily do you get fearful? The body stress, the arousal. How do you sleep? Do we get sufficient sleep, or we are busy doing other things? Do we get, the 6-7 hours? How is our diet like? Do we do enough exercises? Who do we interact with? So that anxiety and arousal, the cognitive style. How flexible are you as a young person? How positive are you? How easily do you get discouraged? And do you believe that things can change for the better? So the cognitive style. So these things kind of affect us, affect us and how we relate in life. And can easily lead us to even developing suicidal behavior. And unfortunately, we are not to blame. It's probably how we've been brought up. It's probably the experiences of childhood. The body never forgets. Like if you get into a space of trauma, the body will always remember that there was trauma. Even at times we tend to feel or to think that I have dealt with it emotionally, only to come and realize that the body actually got stuck somewhere. And then something happens one day. And then that's what leads to even impulsive suicide, because of a trauma that happened and the body captured it and kept it. The joints, these joints we see of our body can actually lead us to thinking about suicide, or to even attempting suicide or dying by suicide. So the risks, resilience, risk and vulnerabilities. What are the risks? What are the vulnerabilities? As a young person, what assets and protective factors do you have? How is it for you to relate in the community? How easily is it for you to live in that college? How easily do you relate with your peers? Do you get to a place of asking each other, hey, how are you doing? How are you? Family, how is your family doing? Remember we said the system, the systemic. It's a whole system. How is your family doing? How is church? Are they friendly? Do they take you in? Is there lots of condemnation? Is it a place that you can learn to? Your friends, who do you call your friends? Can we identify this thing, the community, the college, the peers, the family, the church, the friends, as assets and protective factors that we can work with, that can help us, to guard us and protect us? Because unfortunately, it is an unfriendly space that we are in, and we need assets, or what you call protective factors. More detailed, family connectedness, positive parent and child relationship, parental involvement, religiosity, what are the beliefs against suicide? Positive college connections, how is the unique climate or college climate? Pro-social peer connections, perceived availability of trusted adults, social support connectedness. What are the opportunities that are there for you to engage in supportive social environment? Social teams. Do you have youth groups? And even as I wind up, I would call all of us, the young people that are here, and all of us basically, to kind of just take like an assessment of where we're coming from. Our families, how was it growing up as a child? And probably it's a question that we can pose and ask ourselves, how was it for me? What was portrayed for me? What was my relationship with my parents, with my peers? And even thinking on a scale of 1 to 10, how 10 being excellent and 1 being poor, how was it growing up at home? Was it at a 3? And if it was at a 3, what is it? What was the trauma? What were the things that were pushed to me that even at this age, I am actually dealing with them? You know, how was it relating with my siblings? How was it forming relationships and attachments? You know, just think about it, pause and kind of do a reflection. And lastly, a more intentional network to fostering youth well-being in college. How can we make it better for us? How can we protect all of us from suicide? How can we prevent suicide? How can we take care of each other? And one, it's having engaged adults. As adults who are sitting here today and watching and listening, how engaged are we in the lives of everyone, and especially the lives of young people that you're bringing up, the young adults that we are bringing up? You know, unfortunately, even as a country where we are, it's because of how we were as children. Probably we didn't even know how to manage resources. Were we taught how to manage resources? So our parents, all adults that are here, are we engaged in the lives of our young people? The sectors that are here, the organizations that are represented here, what are we doing? Are we having influential civic decisions? Are we having invigorated programs? Do we mobilize young people to get engaged in activities that they can take care of themselves? So I leave this with us to think and to reflect. And we all have what it takes to prevent suicide, because in one way or another, all of us have been affected. How I started working in the field of suicidology, I lost my first background is in human resource management, and I was working in an organization where we terminated a young person and he died by suicide. And for me, that was the starting point, that I should have noticed something was not right, because we terminated him because he wasn't doing well. He was this good employee, but all of a sudden he changed to being, you know, absenteeism for work, missing his flights. You know, he would come and tidy. He was a cabin crew. He would come and tidy to work. You know, he stopped being engaged, warning letter after warning letter, but no one of us posed the question, hey, I have noticed you're not doing well lately. What's happening with you? How are you doing? I have noticed nowadays you don't come early to work. What's up? You know? So we all have what it takes. We can confidently pose those questions, the hard question. Hey, you know, lately you're not so talkative. What's up? Lately you don't like, you know, we plan for activities and you're not coming. What's happening with you? Like, you know? So yeah, so we all have something. So TINADA team, thank you so much even for organizing this platform. I believe we all have what it takes. Thank you so much for having me. I am delighted, and I am happy to respond to any question that might come through. Thank you so much. Over to you, James.
Thank you so much, Mary. That is a very powerful presentation from your side. And as an expert, we really appreciate that you've given us most of the insight that we would have expected from this topic. Now to my fellow participants, kindly, any questions over the presentation of Mary? You can do a chat box, you can mute and talk, you're allowed. Any question? Okay, I believe silence means everything has been maybe catapulted into our knowledge. And I really appreciate that you were able to create time for this day. And as youth, we are really undergoing through a lot, ranging from the issues around job and even family stabilization. So we have gotten a lot of insight from Mary, and in case there's any other question, there's one from William. William is asking, what are some simplest signs that one can see from one who is about to commit suicide? What are some simplest signs that one can see from one who is about to commit suicide? Kindly, Mary, if you can come up.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. So that question. So there's so many signs. There are others that we can actually see, others we can't see. So somebody who is having or thinking about suicide, one, and I call them like I'll use the word facts. So facts, number one, feelings. So feelings, so they become sad, lonely, hopeless, in pain, moody, irritable, increased kind of depression. So that's a feeling. So you need to watch out for their feelings. How are they? Number two is actions. The actions that they're doing, are they pushing away their friends and families? Are they giving away important possessions? Are they using alcohol? Are they making unsafe decisions? Are they, making or researching to do with suicide and all that? Are they saying goodbyes? Actions could also mean like even some of those things that we can't see, like even giving out their clothing, not even performing in class, Then we talk about changes. So the fact that's FA, then C, changes. The changes could be changes in school performance, changes in appearance or even hygiene, changes in personality or attitude. Somebody who was ever kept, tidy, they were ever smart, they start neglecting themselves, and you notice, this person no longer goes to the kinyozi anymore. This person is either doing so well in school or doing so badly. Then they kind of start seemingly not being themselves. Aki, I noticed Nani is not doing so well lately. Then my T could be threats, saying they're going to kill themselves. Like, we even hear, even the young people or whoever saying, if you stop seeing me, I will kill myself. If I break up with that girl or that guy, I'm going to kill myself. So they could be having threats. If I don't perform in this subject, I'm going to kill myself. If I don't get to that call, I'm going to kill myself. So those are some of the threats. Then situation. And situation in this case means like maybe a crisis that could trigger a certain situation, especially in the last couple of weeks or months. Like what, have they lost a job? Maybe they've lost somebody close to them. Maybe they've been diagnosed with a certain terminal illness. So the situation. So I use facts, FACTS, that is feelings. How are their feelings? Sadness, loneliness, actions. What are they doing that you are feeling concerned? It could be bad or good. Changes. What are the changes that you can notice? Are they sleeping well, eating well, stop eating, overeating? Threats. Are they saying something? And lastly, situations. What is something that could have happened in the last few weeks or months that could actually trigger suicide? Thank you. I hope that's clear.
Thank you so much, Mary. That is quite clear. Now, before you welcome our director, Mr. Roy Douglas, I'm just doing a reminder that we have a link that we have shared in the chat box. Kindly make sure you register so that we can also monitor that the people who are in have attended for how long and also which category are they, just to help us have the correct data for this Zoom. Karibu sana bwana director.
Thank you so much, James. Mary, I really appreciate your presentation, and I've captured a number of things, and this is powerful. We need to keep on this conversation, not only today, but we need to trickle it down to the public, because the issues that are happening are very key that we need to address. I just wanted to trace how can we help anybody that we feel maybe I've mentioned that they want to die of suicide. What's the best way forward? What are the best strategies on how to handle these cases?
That's a question to me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So this is what I would say. And to make it so simple, I use 3 steps. 1, show that you care to this person. When somebody could come to us and tell us that they're actually thinking of suicide. So what I want to do is I want to show that I care. I want to be there for them. I want to listen to them. And I want to tell them that I appreciate where you're coming from. But allow me and you, and I appreciate, even at this space, you want to tell them that even what you're thinking actually is a solution. But allow me and you to come with a possibility, with another possibility. Allow me and you to explore other ways that we can try and bring you out of this problem. Because we say that the person who is attempting suicide, there's something that they're telling us. There's something that they're communicating to us. So our role is to help them. Our role is to find out, how are we? And we could even ask them like a question, like those we have just noticed, maybe something is not right, and ask them, I'm concerned about you lately. I want to help you. How are you? So once we show that we care, listening, being there for them, the other thing we want to do is we want to pose the question of suicide. It is not an easy question, but we want to ask them direct. Tusizunguke mlima, we go straight. Kevin, are you thinking about suicide? Kevin will notice that Mary really cares, and she's actually getting to my space. So we want to ask that question. Are you thinking about suicide? And yes, at times they will even push us away. And you'll tell them, look, Kevin, sometimes when people even get to this space of going through what you're going through, because I know life has really hit you hard, they could be thinking about suicide. So tell me, are you thinking about suicide? So we want to really get into their space. And at times we get them that say, hey, I'm not. We want to tell them, yes, I acknowledge that this space is not so interesting. But when life hits like this, somebody could be pushed to thinking about suicide. Are you thinking about suicide? And the other thing we want to do, number 3, is to get help. Let's show that we care. And even showing that we care means, listening to them, being there with them, and keeping them safe. When somebody has presented and they called you that they want to die of suicide, you want to ask them, tell me, how do you even want to kill yourself? So that's what I'm saying. Tuzizunguke mlima, let's ask them direct. Are you thinking about suicide? Yes. How are you thinking of killing yourself? They will tell you, I want to take drugs. Okay, fine. Tell me, where are those drugs right now? They'll tell you. When they tell you where they are, you want to take the action of eliminating the means from them. So tell them what to do with those drugs. Tell them to go and throw them away. Tell them to flush them in a toilet, to throw them somewhere. If they're planning to use a rope, you want to tell them where to take that rope. So you want to take them through a journey of keeping them safe. And even as you do that, the other number 3 is you want to be getting help. You may not be a professional, you may not be the counselor, you may not be a psychologist or a mental health professional. So you want to seek help for them. And you want to tell them, look, I want to keep you safe, but there's some things that I cannot be able to address as a person. So I want to get help for you. So show that you care by being there for them, listening and keeping them safe. Number 2, pose the question about suicide. And number 3, get help for them. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. Director, is that in order?
No, thank you so much. That's so perfect.
Thank you so much. So something amazing is sometimes back I was going through some data of World Bank, and World Bank is noting that in every 100,000 people, 1 out of 6 is thinking of suicide, or maybe is attempting suicide. So suicide mortality rate in Kenya is quite high, and I think the topic that we have brought in place is very timely. And that is why there is a question that has been asked by one of us about maybe how to sort out somebody who is thinking about suicide, but when you approach him or her about help, they're pushing you away. I think the topic will be handled next, so we can get more answers on the same from the next speaker. But if the question is not well answered, you can always raise again so that the speaker can raise. Thank you so much, Mary, and we really appreciate your time. Without much ado, allow me to, Director, you can come up. Hello, Director. Hello, are you able to get me? Okay, so I was saying without much ado, allow me welcome the next speaker, because most of the questions that we are asking are falling in the preceding presentations that will be done now. Mr. John Mwangi, are you in the floor?
Hello. Yes, I am.
Kindly welcome, introduce yourself, and maybe tell us more about your topic. Thank you so much.
Thank you, James. My name is John Mwangi from PDO Kenya, and a group known as PDO Champions, which is a group of youth between the ages of 18 to 30 years who have lived experience in mental health, and we have decided to share our stories so as to challenge stigma. So basically, my topic today is it's suicide and stigma, and I'll talk about the stigma that surrounds suicide and the ways to prevent this stigma from affecting us. So basically, I'll go and start by defining what is stigma. Stigma is a mark that detonates a shameful quality in an individual soul marked. And that's a basic definition of stigma. So I'll then move forward to talk about the stigma that's around mental health. And basically one of the most suicide is because suicide is a taboo subject that is not allowed to be spoken in our context as Africans, in the African society mostly. And this is because of various reasons. Because if a family experiences a death by suicide, they see it as an omen, and you find the society shunning off the families that have gone through suicide, or a person who has attempted suicide, they start shunning the person. So that's one of the stigma that surrounds suicide. The other stigma that surrounds suicide is the stereotypes. And people have associated suicide as emotional, is someone that suicide is someone who has attempted suicide or died by suicide is someone who is weak, emotionally weak. And basically for men, showing emotions and showing that sense of fragility, they say you're a weak person. Another thing is also they say when you are doing someone who has attempted suicide is seen as attention seeking. Others they see the stereotype is they are malingering, that is they pretend to be ill. And now And they also, the stereotype, there's also immorality. This is based on the religion, where the religion has put as someone died by suicide is as something that is immoral. Families we find also family do bring a lot of this stigma around suicide, in which they say someone who is attempting suicide is a disgrace to the family, is bringing shame to the family, and see all this is what stigma that is surrounding suicide. The other aspect is how the media portrays suicide and the way they report on suicide. You'll find mostly in the industries of film, they portray suicide based on their imaginations and beliefs that are not related to actual facts. And also the media, once they are reporting on suicide, they like to dramatize the suicide case or the attempted suicide. You find they bring it in a sense that is something dramatical. And in that sense, it brings a lot of stigma into the society. Also, now I'll move forward and speak about the preventions around that you can put to prevent the stigma. One thing and the most powerful way to mitigate stigma is having open conversation about suicide. Because it's a culture where suicide is a taboo, we are not allowed to speak about it. But us speaking about it and speaking openly, it moves the conversation and helps us now to start challenging the stigma in itself, and with that, people start accepting suicide as something that is not immoral or someone who is weak. And one of the best ways is to tap into the power and take advantage of lived experience. If I speak for myself, if I speak as to myself, for me, I have attempted suicide twice, and the power of me speaking about this is speaking openly and showing that suicide is not a sense of weakness, it's not that someone is emotionally weak, and especially as me, as being a man, then this opening this conversation enables now people to start having the conversation around suicide. The other thing we can do to prevent this stigma is going through having campaigns to challenge stigma. And this is creating awareness and educating the people about suicide. And once you're educating people about suicide, you educate so that they can be able to accept and sharing the facts about suicide, that suicide is a disease, the person does not wish to die, the person wants to is a cry for help. And this is the awareness that we would like to raise this campaign. Also, we look at, there's a way that you are supposed to, as people who are, when there's a suicidal death or someone who has attempted suicide, the way the media or us as people should share that information, the way they have shared that information also it does matter in preventing suicide and also eradicating the way that eliminating the stigma that surrounds suicide. And this I'll share about the guidelines that have been given by WHO on reporting or sharing information about suicide, because this helps prevent all these issues of stigmatizing suicide and dramatizing it. So one of the guidelines that WHO has given is, once there's a suicide death, then you take that opportunity to educate the public about suicide. So you take advantage of that opportunity to educate people about suicide. The second thing you should do is avoid language which sensationalize or present suicide as a solution to the problem. So once you're reporting or sharing information, don't present it as suicide as a case as a solution to the problem. The other guideline is avoid placement and undue repetition about suicide. So if there's a case of suicide, don't keep on sharing that information about suicide and sensationalizing it and present it as a solution. So that's one. The other thing is avoid explicit description of the method used or attempted suicide. So the method that the person has used to die by suicide should not be described. And you can find even the case that was recently in the media of the killing of Eve, you find there was so much details given of the way the details, too much details was given. And this giving too much details enables people to have now that stigma around suicide. The wordings when sharing information of a death of a suicide should be careful, because the choice of words matter, because words have an impact. So we should be careful in the way we put the wordings. The other guideline is exercise caution in use of photography and video footage. You'll find when there's a death of suicide, you'll find people of the media are sharing pictures of the suicide, the site, the person, and also going to the extent even of showing that, of distributing even the video clips, the video footage of that event. So to avoid this, we should avoid sharing of this in photography and video footage. Suicide does not discriminate, and even celebrities are affected by suicide. So if there's a case of suicide of a celebrity, it should be minimized to almost to the ultimate, to the level that it can be minimized, so that it doesn't get a lot of publicity, because it has a sense of influencing. And there's what we call copycat. When you find there's a death by suicide, and it is presented, you find you have repercussions of other suicide cases that follow. When you're reporting, you should show consideration of the bereaved family that has been affected by suicide, because they are mourning over death. So you find if you're keeping on sharing that footage and the video footage, it's so disturbing, and it affects the family that has been affected by suicide emotionally. So once you are sharing information, have the caution of what is the family going to feel, or how is the family feeling if I share this information. And also, at that moment, you should also take the opportunity to provide information on where to seek help. Also, when you want to fight stigma, because all of us, there's that individual responsibility. And your individual responsibility is you yourself go and educate yourself about mental health and suicide. And once you educate yourself, then educate the people that are around you about suicide. And that enables us now to have demystify the suicide and curb the stigma that surrounds suicide. Also be cautious about the language that you use in suicide. Use of the term commit suicide is not acceptable in mental health, because commit refers it's a sin, or it's something that is not allowed. So using of the term suicide commit suicide is not does not work over well when you are reporting a death of suicide. So the term to use is die by suicide, because suicide is a disease. Just like the way someone dies of heart attack, you can never say the person had attacked himself or heart attack herself. You say they died through a heart attack. So in suicide, because it's a disease, you die by suicide. So that also that to prevent also this another aspect is having contacts so as to prevent suicide, having well contacts of the people who are social mental health providers, and having their contacts so that if there's any a case of suicide or someone who is feeling suicidal, then you can be able to refer them. And that's the end of my presentation. And I welcome any question. Back to you, James.
Thank you so much, John. That is timely, and you've nailed everything that some of us may be having. But in case of any clarifications, kindly let us raise the same. Then also, John, there is a question that was being asked: Is suicide generational? That if somebody died in your family with committing suicide, then another person will automatically commit suicide. Is it generational?
Most of the time you find suicide is as a result of having a mental health condition. And you find mental health conditions they have some do have an aspect of genetics. So you find in your family, if there's a lineage of having depression, then the next person lineage in the family is at higher risk of having depression. And if the person now goes develop depression, then the person is at higher risk of having a suicide ideation. So that's why people say they say it's as if it follows family lineage, but it's a matter of genetics, but it's not that much 100% that it must has to happen.
Okay, thank you so much. So because of time, I'll welcome the last speaker. Then we'll do a round of Q&A before we close our Zoom. Thank you so much, John, and I hope you're still around so that you'll be picking some questions as we continue with the same. Kindly for now, allow me welcome Madam Whitney Ndemo, who is going to speak on response to attempted suicide. Welcome, Whitney, as you introduce yourself. Whitney?
She's asking you to unmute her.
Whitney, are you around? Maybe before Whitney comes in, we can take a few questions so that we do not waste much time.
James.
Yes.
Hello. She's asking to be unmuted.
Let me just do that. Whitney, try to unmute. Our tech Ojuki, kindly help us to unmute Whitney.
Whitney's trying to unmute. If you could, I think while Whitney's trying to unmute.
Ojuki, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here, James.
Kindly help Whitney to unmute. She's unable to speak. Ojuki, I'm sharing some presentation.
Yes. You can share, James. You're a co-host.
Ojuki, are you able to see the presentation?
Whitney, go ahead. James.
Yes, Ojuki, kindly share for Whitney to be able to present. I can see she is among the co-hosts now, so she can be able to speak.
Yeah, you can go ahead and speak. Are you using a laptop or phone, James?
Pardon?
Are you using a laptop?
No, I'm using my phone. So kindly share the presentation of Whitney because I can't share from my end.
I'm trying to share it through my laptop and it's giving some problems because I'm tethering. I'm somewhere in the bush of Kakamega forest, but let me just try again.
Okay, but Whitney, kindly you can pick up as we await for the presentation. Yeah, is there any questions before Whitney comes up? Kindly, anybody with a question over the two presentations that have been done as we wait for Whitney? Yeah, as we also wait for the question, I can welcome our director if he has anything to maybe air out.
Online cast item. Is that they can?
Director, are you around? Mike, can you maybe come up in case of any clarifications or any point that you can give? Mike Wanjengu.
Okay, I can now speak.
Okay, nice,
Hello?
Whitney, welcome.
You can hear me? You can now share
Yes.
the slides.
Okay. Kindly the others who are not speaking, mute so that Whitney can present.
Are you able to share the slides? Or just do the
Yes,
presentation?
Juki was doing the same. Let me just confirm whether it is possible. Kindly mute if you are not speaking.
Yeah. While we are still waiting for him to share, I think I can just start.
Okay, Whitney, go ahead.
Yeah. My presentation, in as much as you guys cannot see it, I started like with a case note. Being a counselor, you know, at times somebody can, as a counselor, at times this is just like a case note that was shared. Somebody say that, hello, I'm wondering what are considered suicidal thoughts. Is it really being unsure of your decision? Is it making plans without a doubt? Or is it recurring thoughts of, I want to be over with this life? Or is it worth it? I know how to do this. Why don't I just do it? Or is it, as in, I know my question may seem strange, but I'm really questioning myself. You see, many at times when somebody is suicidal, they usually have these thoughts and they usually cross their minds over and over and over before they finally do it. At times it can be thoughts of like, I can't stop thinking about suicide. I've thought about it for years. I've made 3 attempts and I don't know if I'll be safe at night. I just drink enough so that I can stop thinking about killing myself, or I hate thinking about it. At times, these are voices of suicide, and these are voices of people screaming for help. These are people who are in despair, who don't know what to do about their thoughts, and might do something harmful to either themselves or to someone else.
Able to see the screen kindly?
No, I'm not able to see the screen. Okay, I'll continue. At times, we know how to help people with these suicidal thoughts turn away from dangerous behaviors and towards something that can provide them with help and hope that they need. You know, suicide can be a scary thing to think about, and no one wants to picture a loved one taking their own life or even envision themselves making the choice. However, as scary as the thought can be, suicide needs to be discussed, and there are so many people suffering in silence in our country, whether it be from suicidal thoughts or loss of a loved one to suicide. Suicide at times feels like a taboo or unmentionable, but the sooner we break this silence, the sooner more people are going to get the help that they need. Like in Kenya, between May and August of this year, we had a record of 483 cases of suicide that have been recorded by the DCI. It was even shared in Citizen TV some while ago. If you calculate that, that is 5 deaths daily. I don't know about you, but these numbers are very alarming. And at times, this data, the 5 suicide in a day, it could be your friend, it could be your relative, it could be someone you know, it could be someone who knows someone who committed suicide. So this thing, at times it might seem it's very far, but when this thing gets right into your home, then at times that is when people want to start having that conversation. You shouldn't wait for it to reach home for you to start breaking this, start having this conversation. And I want to acknowledge that asking can be very difficult, terrifying, and uncomfortable. That does not mean that it should not happen. What I would like you to consider is that there is vision. Yeah, like I think it was somebody raised that in the question, like, how do I share with someone? As in, how do I have a conversation with someone? Well, how can we identify someone that is at risk for suicide or might be considering suicide? Somebody asked for the signs. So here are some of the common warning signs that somebody might be suicidal. Number 1, they might be exhibiting symptoms of depression or anxiety. Number 2, they may begin to withdraw or isolate themselves from people or the things that they used to love to do. Number 3, they may talk about wanting to die or kill themselves. Number 4, they start giving away their prized possessions. Like, unajua tu beshta yako, unajua hii ni level hizi fika, alafu unamwona anaanza kufanya hivyo, and there have been some other characteristics also. It is also a thing to be worried about. Number 5, they start talking about feeling burdensome to others. Number 6, they talk about wanting revenge or to get even. Like, for example, these are times happens with very many of our young people, of us young people. At times you're in a relationship, and as my sister Mary shared earlier on, she was like, at times somebody's in a relationship and they're like, me, if I break up with this person, I will kill myself and I will also kill them. At times this is not just a conversation. We've even seen this happen on day-to-day. One person in a relationship goes and kills the other person or poisons them, and then they end their own life at the end of it. So if you see people talking about revenge, at times these are not just statements. At times people usually go ahead and kill them. There is also increased use of alcohol and drugs. There is increased of risky behavior or recklessness. They talk about hopelessness, worthless, or like their life has no meaning in this world. Then they also have sleep disturbances ranging from oversleeping to insomnia. And then they may have a change in personality or experience frequent mood swings. Now, some of the misconceptions about suicide that we have outside there, at times people say that people who talk about suicide won't really do it. Is it true? Because I think a fact is almost everyone who attempts suicide has given someone a clue or a warning. Don't ignore even the indirect references to death or suicide. Statements like, you'll be sorry when I go. I can't see any way out of this life. No matter how casual or jokingly something has been said. As in, it is important to note that these might indicate serious suicidal feelings. Another myth is anyone who tries to kill themselves must be crazy. A fact is most suicidal people are not psychotic or insane. They are upset, grief-stricken, they are depressed, and at some of them they're despairing, but extreme distress and emotional pains are not necessarily signs of mental or are not necessarily signs of mental condition. Another myth is if someone is determined to kill themselves, nothing is gonna stop them. A fact is even a very severely depressed person has mixed feelings about death, fluctuating between wanting to live and wanting to die. Rather than waiting death, they just want pain to stop. And the impulse to end their life does not last forever. Well, another myth is that people who die by suicide are people who are unwilling to seek for help. A fact is, many people try to get help before attempting suicide. In fact, studies indicate that more than 50% of suicidal victims have sought medical help in the past 6 months or prior to their death. The last myth that I have on my slide is that talking about suicide might give somebody an idea of how to do it. A fact is, you don't give someone suicidal ideas by talking about suicide. The opposite is true. Talking openly and honestly about suicidal thoughts and feelings can help to save a life. Well, if you're noticing any of these behaviors in someone you know, address them. The person might not actually be suicidal, but it's better to talk about it than not. I also want to point out that having this conversation is not going to give them the idea to take their life either. So don't feel like your conversation will turn into an invitation. The goal for you to have this conversation is to show that you care about what they're going through and you want to support them. Like I think somebody has asked in the comment section of a friend who each and every time they're stubborn, of course, they don't look okay. But whenever there is the issue of seeking help, this person is violent and is not taking this very well. Well, just for me, I can just say keep having that conversation. In as much as at times it looks like you're disturbing them, in as much as at times it looks like they're not listening to you, believe me, they're listening to you very keenly. So keep pressing. So some of the helpful points to remember for the conversation is, number one, ask your friend what they're going through. Never assume anything that you know, even if it is your close friend, never assume. Always probe, always ask questions. Ninajua beshte yangu James sometimes aongeangi hivi. Let me call out of the blues alafu amepumua tu kwa simu na akakata simu. As a friend at times, do you take time to ask a further question? Are you okay? Can I help you? Is there something I can do for you? Okay, another thing is listen non-judgmentally and without interruption. Many times some people don't share about their suicidal thoughts because they're like, aki nani atanichukulia aje? As in, how will somebody think about me after this? That is why you should listen without any interruptions. And another thing, it is take what is being said seriously. At times, this might even be coming from your friend and you're like, take them seriously. Avoid comparing their situation to something else. That is why you should listen non-judgmentally and without interruptions. And another thing is suggest that they see a professional or go with them to seek this professional help. Another thing is that let them know that you care and that they are not alone in this journey that they are in. Another thing is keep them safe. Reduce access to lethal means for those that are at risk. It might be a gun, it might be a rope, it might be drugs, it might be pills. Another thing is stay connected. After they've sought for help, make sure that you follow up to see how they are doing. And if your loved one indicates that they are suicidal, the next step is to get help. There are professionals in various organizations. I've seen people list in the chat box, the various organizations they come from. But for me, I can say that we have professionals at TINADA that are willing to help you and the person that you're worried for. Even if you don't feel comfortable asking your friend if there's a you can always reach out for in the chat box. Preventing suicide is often possible, and you and I are key players in its prevention. Through action, you can make a difference. Through action, you can make a difference to someone in their darkest moments. As a member of a society, as a child, as a parent, as a friend, as a colleague or neighbor, we can all play a role in supporting those experiencing a suicidal crisis or those people who have been bereaved by suicide. In fact, giving a suicidal person the opportunity to express their feelings can provide relief from loneliness and patent negative feelings, and it might prevent a suicidal attempt. Ways to see ways to seek a conversation about suicide. Like, how do you do, as in, how can you bring up this suicide? For instance, you can start a conversation like, I have been feeling concerned about you lately. You can also say, recently I've noticed some difference in you, and I'm wondering, how are you doing? You can also ask, I wanted to check in with you because you haven't seemed yourself lately. A question that you can ask, as in when somebody shares with you their suicidal thoughts, you can ask, when did you start feeling like this? Did something happen to make you start feeling like this? Because it's always good to find out a root cause, because that is where we start solving the issue from. Like, you can ask, how best can I support you right now in what you're feeling? You can ask, have you thought about getting help? Because that way you can also get a chance to know their social support system. You can get a chance to know maybe if they're under medication, because I don't know if Mary shared this, but there are also some medications that at times might make somebody depressed. So you can ask that, have they tried to get some help? You can, some of the things that you can say that can help during that time is that you're not alone in this. I'm here for you. You may not believe it now, but the way you're feeling will change. I may not be able to understand exactly how you feel, but I care about you and I want to help. When you want to give up, tell yourself you will hold off just one more day, one more hour, one more minute, whatever you can manage. That is why at times having this conversation with them, in as much as sometimes it looks like they're not listening to you, even someone standing from a rooftop, they want to throw themselves. At times, just having this conversation, talking through to them, at times it might make them to hold on one more minute, which might turn out to one more hour, which might turn out to a one more day, one more week. And before you know it, this person will be back to themselves slowly. So some of the do's and don'ts during a rescue mission for those people who have attempted suicide. Number one, be yourself. Let this person know you care, that they are not alone. Find the right words. Finding the right words are not nearly as important as showing your concern. So at times, even when you don't know what to say, just to be there for them physically. I know that at times silence can be very weird, but it's not a must for you to say something. Just standing there with them, knowing that you're sitting there, you're monitoring their moves, at times it gives them that comfort. Another thing, listen. Let your friend or loved one vent their and unload their feelings. No matter how negative the conversation may seem, the fact that they're talking about it, it is a positive sign. Another thing is, be sympathetic and non-judgmental. The suicide person is doing the right thing by talking about their feelings, no matter how difficult or vague it might be to hear. Offer hope, reassure your loved one that help is available and that the suicide feelings are temporal. Let the person know that their life is important to you as a person. Take this person seriously. If the suicidal person says things like, I am so depressed, I cannot go on, ask if they're having thoughts of suicide. You're allowing them to share their pain with you and not putting ideas in their head. Things that you should never do during supporting or rescuing somebody from suicide. It is arguing with the suicidal person. Avoid saying things like, you have so much to live for. Your suicide will hurt your family, or just snap out of it. At times, don't act shocked and start lecturing the value of life or arguing that the suicide is wrong or what have you. Do not promise confidentiality during suicide or swear secrecy. A life is at stake, and you might need to speak to a mental health professional in order to keep the suicidal person safe. So if you promise to keep your discussion secret, you may have to break your word. Like, I think my friend Eliud shared in the chat box that they're trying to seek help for this person, but this person does not want to hear. So, Eliud, I also want to share that you can speak to a professional. They will always know how to intervene and help. This person, it might look like you've betrayed their trust, but at the end of the day, when they'll be in a better place, they will appreciate you for saving their life. Another thing, offer ways to fix your loved one Never offer ways to fix your loved one problems. Get advice or make them feel like they have to justify their suicidal feelings. It's not about how bad the problem is, but how badly it's hurting your friend or loved one. Don't blame yourself. You cannot fix somebody else's depression, their problem. Your friend and your loved one's happiness or lack is not your responsibility. So never take responsibility for their actions, for their feelings, but always let them know that you care and you're there for them. It is very imperative that anyone who has attempted suicide is appropriately referred and cared for by mental health professionals. Because when you refer them for support, the mental health professionals will be able to work in the community in the following areas. They will be able to plan a support system and a support structure for a person who has attempted suicide. They will also be able to help to meet the immediate counseling needs of affected person. They'll be able to also identify other persons. They'll be able to also educate these people on other vulnerable people. Then they will also be able to contain the spread of information. I think my brother has just shared on the issues of stigma about sharing information about a suicidal person. Imagine if my brother James, I'm sorry for using you as an example. If my brother James attempted suicide, and then every time I'm talking to someone, I'm referring to James. You let James alijaribu kujiua. As in, you see, each and every time, as in, I keep bruising this wound. At the end of the day, James will be like, wacha basi nijulikane basi yule James alijuanga. So at times also doing damage control and trying to contain this information from spreading, at times it also helps. Suicidal thoughts can be very complex, and the factor and causes that lead to suicide are complex and many, and no single approach works for everyone. What we do know is that there are certain factors and life events that can make someone more vulnerable to suicide and mental health conditions. Anxiety and depression can be a contributing factor. I think it has been shared, it was shared earlier. And people who are suicidal may feel trapped or like a burden to their friends and family and those around them, and thus feel like they are alone and have no options. The COVID-19 pandemic has contributed to the increased feeling of isolation and vulnerability. By creating hope through action, which is our theme for this year, we can signal to people experiencing suicidal thoughts that there is hope and that there is care and want to support them. However, while doing referrals and getting support may be life-saving in times of the most extreme duress, finding ways to keep moving forward in your day-to-day life when you're experiencing dark thoughts may not always be as straightforward. Many individuals often find themselves lacking support or feeling as though they don't have anyone to talk to as a way. So furthermore, thoughts of unhappiness with life as well as depression in general are not a struggle that can be solved with one quick fix or any magical cure. It can be common to have periods when you feel okay and also have days or weeks or months when you feel significantly worse and struggle just to keep yourself afloat. So while it can be extremely difficult, depression and suicidal thoughts, there are things that you can do to help you cope in your day-to-day life. Like number one, you can return back to things that used to make you happy in the past. Number two, like your hobbies, the things that you cherish, the people who used to give you very good memories, you can return to those things. Number two, you can reach out to people you've lost contact with. Individuals who are feeling severely depressed may often feel as though as they are a burden to those that care about them. It may feel right at the time as though as you're saving others from having to be around you, but reaching out to people that care about you may be incredibly helpful in finding needed support. Number three, write a letter to yourself for times when you feel stuck. Like you can have a journal when you cannot share your words with people. At times it's an odd hour. You can talk to yourself, you can write, you can do pep talks. Number four, Find someone that you're comfortable talking with about serious stuff. Find somebody that you can have talk therapy. You know, at times, the reason why people have best friends, that one or two people that you can share even your most weirdest, even the most silliest thought that you have in your head. At times, it's helpful. And this is an encouragement mostly to men. At times, when men meet, they share about social issues. They never share about personal stuff. So it's time for you to find someone. It can be your wife, it can be your friend, it can be your fellow male. You can share about your issues, no matter how silly they look like and serious stuff. And lastly, you can think about the good things and your success stories that has brought you this far. If that is what will give you comfort and make you to rethink over, then do that, absolutely. So how to respond to a person who is potentially suicidal? I think we've shared this, but this is just now a summary of everything that I've presented. Number one, recognize these warning signs of depression and suicide risk. Number two, take the suicide statement seriously and trust your instincts. Number three, get involved by using active listening. Number four, encourage this person to seek for help. And number five, why directly asking about suicide can be scary. The person you're concerned about needs you to ask. You can ask them, do you feel so badly that you're thinking about suicide? If the answer is yes, take the person's response seriously and continue the suicide risk assessment questions. Do not leave this person who you feel is at a high risk for suicide alone, even for a moment. And if the person in crisis has taken some form of life-threatening action, get help immediately. Camilla and Joseph and James are going to be able to share the contacts for response in the chat box. My parting shot is you may think that you have to be strong all the time. At times you think that you're not allowed to cry, to admit that you're not okay. It's okay not to be okay. And you are never alone. There is somebody who cares for you. Thank you. I'm done with my presentation.
Wow, thank you so much, Whitney. That is a very elaborative presentation. And we appreciate that you are able to at least now give a summary of all the earlier on presented information. Now, quickly, there is somebody who has raised something that she had a friend who committed suicide. And seems like she knew about this and didn't know how to go about it. So it happened and she feels traumatized. And in fact, she is even feeling like she could have done something, but yet she didn't do it. So how can you advise such a person?
There are professionals who can walk you through this journey of the traumatic experience that you went through. And I can share my contacts and other people of whom you can reach, and we can have a side conversation, if that is okay.
Yeah, sure. Kindly, we shared some survey link, so you can fill there so that we can get to know your contact. And in case of any further information, like for those who need the notes, we will always share the report after the summary of the same is done. Thank you so much for everyone. I don't know if our director is with us so that he can do a summary, since our time is far much gone or spent.
Maybe before I leave,
Okay.
I don't know if director is there, but if he hasn't come, when it comes to these issues, as an organization, TINADA, we are having a program that we are doing, and this program is offering a lot of psychosocial support to the people. Since this is Suicide Prevention Day, we are offering support to psychosocial support to those people who have attempted suicide, or even those people who are walking that journey, or who have lost a loved one to suicide. So you can reach out. James will share the contacts, and you can reach out. And in terms of the services and the payments, James will also be able to share, or the director will share. before we leave.
Thank you, Whitney, for that elaboration. And I wanted just to raise that TINADA is a powerhouse when it comes to mental health issues. For us, we are looking at the mental health aspect of the young people especially. And when it comes to mental health, it is a condition with regard to psychological, emotional, and social well-being. So as an organization, we will be doing follow-up for those who have any arising issues around mental health. You can always keep in touch with TINADA. But Camila is going to share more information about how you can reach out to TINADA and where you can find them. Camila, kindly come up. Camila is saying she'll send the slides through the email. Since we have registered in the link, so we have all your emails and maybe the contacts. So thank you so much for everyone who was able to come up and maybe join this conversation. It is just the start, but we know it is a conversation that needs to continue. And also I want to recognize that we have so many experts in the house who have joined us. I've seen so many from within Kisumu and even outside Kisumu. We have seen so many psychosocial support personnel who have also joined us. We really appreciate your time, plus all the participants who were able to join. We don't take it for granted. And even as an organization, we are still continuing with the same conversation in our social media handles. You can even send a direct link or a direct contact and message to TINADA through the information that has been shared here, or through the links that have been shared here. And if you have any problem or any issues around mental health, TINADA is based at Lolwe Estate in Kisumu. So you can always visit their office at any time. They have psychosocial officers who will help you to overcome the same. Otherwise, from my end, I thank you so much for being part and parcel of this. I'll appoint one person to kindly pray for us if there is no any other issue. Unless there is a burning concern, then I can raise. I tried to find our director, but he was not in. I'm not sure if he's already in now.
I'm in, Baba.
Yes, Karibu, you can maybe give us a parting shot and more information on how we can access TINADA. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, James, and I want to appreciate you for sitting and supporting this process. First of all, let me thank everyone for coming on this conversation. And not just let us we take it back to the community, back to families, and all our friends. Charity begins at we need to start with sharing. If you have which get something shared. And I want to take opportunity to thank our panelists. We are so much grateful and also to share with us issues that we need to, how we handle issues at the community. And we've learned a lot. I just want to say also that I want to thank another team and also all the partners. I've seen so many partners have joined it. And when we partner and work together as a team, we can achieve a lot. We must reduce this number. One thing which is very important is to reduce the indicator. As you see, yesterday I was watching news. So now our indicator of 1.2, around 1,000 something, Kenya. That means reduce. We need to work on the indicator. And what we are doing here, we need to see in the next few months, are we reducing the number down? And at the end of the day, we need to end it. And it's a tall order, and people work fast. So I want all partners thank you organization, coordination, TINADA and other partners so much. On if it organization to have valid No, none. Okay. Currently, we implement Imarisha mental health in Kisumu County, and we are focusing on the community-based mental health, apart from advocacy. So that's something that we need to focus on, community-based. Can we take our services back to the community? According to the research that we did in 2019 December, from August to December, it said that over 78% doesn't have knowledge on mental health. That is why we have a lot of discrimination. So if we do enough education, so we know the effect, the causes and the effect, and how to manage this, and the discrimination will go down, because stigma and discrimination accelerates the mental health cases. So we need to focus on community-based mental health and always be your brother's keeper. It's very important. This week we were in Nakuru, number of partners, including the Kenya Human Rights Commission, and it was international conference. And one of the key issues that came out is about suicide, and we discussed about it. And I know because we are working with Kenya Human Rights Commission at national level, there are a number of things that we need to change in law. Law must be changed, and it is us who need to push this agenda. Thank you so much. May God bless you. Let us work, continue working.
Thank you so much, Director. We really appreciate everybody who was on board. Thank you, everyone. From my end, I want to wish you well, and even as we continue the conversation, feel free to reach out to TINADA team so that you get more information on the same. I wish you well and have a blessed day and a very productive weekend. Thank you so much.
So, guys, as you are leaving, kindly ensure that you register in the link that is provided. As we are exiting, kindly just for documentation purposes, just register in the link provided by Camila in the chat box.